to another episode of Around the Edge. I get to sit today with my longtime friend. For those of you who do not know Mr. Kelvie, he's kind of like the secret ninja behind the scenes. A lot of people don't even understand the work that this guy does for Edge, and not only making things run smoothly, but organizing a lot of the things internally for us with our support staff, with, how Bonzo works on the recruiting side, how a lot of our policies and systems get in place. Plus, one of the best things he gets to deal with are FIU audits, which I'm sure he just absolutely loves.
I'm telling you right now, we're dealing with 3 of them right now at the same time. So.
Yeah, nonstop. Plus audits, normal audits, but the FIU ones are from UWM anytime they have something afterwards. So I would say anyone listening to this, if you ever have a file that's in question, like, wow, is this legal? It'd be a good idea to reach out to Nick, because the chances are, if you're asking yourself that question, it's probably going to show up on his desk in 1 to 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have to respond, oh, I didn't realize that she worked for the same family member at a in-home healthcare business. And wait, her bank statement was the same as her employer, but she got a raise?
I'm telling you, I see some crazy stuff out there, but the key word behind the scenes, everybody. So I'm glad to be here with you. It's going to be fun here. So
yeah, well, it's good to have you. I know if I rewind back, a lot of people assume that you've been with us from the beginning, and you pretty much have. But I don't remember the exact day, right? We founded in 2011. Was it 2013 that you came on? It
was actually 2014 when I joined, and at the time, you guys had what? 25, 30 LOs at the time?
Yeah, pretty small. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your journey in the mortgage industry, right? Because I think you've been in it a long time. Because one, I knew of you before you came to join us then. But let's just. You don't have to cover too much from, I'm not trying to dive into your childhood and get experience in, but did you grow up in Minnesota?
I did. Grew up in Apple Valley, Minnesota, so born and raised here. Been in the business. I got in 2001, so 22 years now.
Same as me. Awesome. Yeah. That was the time, right? It was the wild, wild west days where you saw the guys wait a minute, you're selling money and you get paid for it?
Exactly.
No licensing.
Right.
No, they literally sat you at a desk, gave you a phone.
Yeah.
Either, for me, they gave me a list of people to call because I was, leads were, the majority of us got into it chasing leads. So
absolutely.
Where was the first place that you worked at?
Source Lending Corporation. So that was the first place, and just got out of college, graduated with a K through 12 education degree, was going to be a teacher. And then, with teaching, you have to student teach for a while and, kind of substitute and all that. So while I was waiting to get a job there, a friend of mine was working for Source, and it was crazy. And I'll never forget it. It was the money that got me in the business at first, I'll admit, right?
Yes, all of us.
So, he shows me a paycheck for, it was like 25 grand or something like that. And it just blew me away. I was young then, coming out of college, and that money shock. And I asked some questions and then kind of got into it a little bit. I was thinking part-time at first, just till I got my teaching gig, but it was crazy. I got hooked, but like you said, the training back then was kind of train you a couple of days, throw you in the mix, and it was a different game back then for sure, and a lot of ups and downs since then. But I love this business. I'm hooked.
Source. Be in this forever. Wasn't that Hackers Company?
It was. Yep.
Yeah, that's what absolutely. I thought. So 2001 to what, 2008?
2008, that was right around the mortgage crash, for those of you that have been around in the business that long. And so we had a really good company there, good footprint. We were growing rapidly at the time. It just so much changed in the crash. So at the time we had 4 or 5 branches, 150 LOs at the time. So it was a good thing going, but then the whole economy kind of crashed.
It was all consumer direct, right? You guys were buying leads and chasing. That was kind of where I would say Chris saw your potential in not only managing a team, but managing the processes and data behind conversion on leads and to me, I really miss that part of the business, but at the same time, damn, did I hate it. Yeah. It was such a different, it was such a different feeling where it felt like a job compared to when you're when you're relational based, it feels like a career, right? Yeah. Where if you're chasing leads, you have to wake up and chase a new rabbit out of the hole every day. Yeah. You have no residual income.
Yep.
And when you make that transition to a referral-based loan officer, you actually have residual income.
Yeah.
And it's not the typical sense of residual income from like if you're an insurance agent and policies renew. But at the same time, you've got a lot of good realtor relationships that you had. You were one of our top originators before you moved into this role. As you know, they're always going to be doing business.
Yeah.
And if you're their guy, that means you have business coming. And it gave me, I know when I made that transition, like 2010, it felt more like a career than just coming in a job. I got to find a new client today, to where it took a little bit, right? For you, when you made that transition from, I would say, chasing leads to creating relationships, when was that, and what did it look like for you?
That's all unpack a lot there, right? So going back to start, I was obviously a loan officer, learned the business, rapidly kind of grew up there. I was always driven by, top numbers, production. And at the time, being young in my career, it was, like you said, leads. Back then, we were what would be known as a refi shop. A lot of companies were back then, whereas maybe purchase business was more at the retail bank level, maybe.
It was, 100%.
And, because there was so much business in the broker channel for refi, rates were really low. So at any rate, kind of climbed up there after a couple of years at Source, got into a branch manager role, and then kind of eventually went up to a regional VP role. So that kind of climbed rapidly in my career there. Chris did see the potential in me, and that was great. It's just kind of accelerated my career. But what you said about the transactional part or being an LO, even to this day right now that I'm, EVP here, I miss that. And we talk about it all the time, and because you $150 million producer last year, and you're kind of stepping back a little, taking more of a management role here and helping us grow. But I mean, for me, I miss that, and when I came to Edge, it was at a time where I was, at a different company, and I was managing.
Where were you?
I was at a company called Marketplace Home Mortgage.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of had
Keith White's company that sold
to,
who they sell to? Not New Horizon. I always confuse them with the daycare because
they sold to New Horizon. But at the time, at the crash there, me and another guy, we kind of didn't know really what was going to happen there. So we loved the mortgage biz, but it was really tough. So we and at that time I was managing at a high level.
Yeah.
So I kind of had all the pieces to the pie, right, to start my own. So it was like a net branch setup where you saw that a lot back then in 2009, 2010, where, I didn't want to go sell insurance or do something else. I loved the business. I thought I could create a smaller model and manage it myself. So me and the other guy, we did a great job for a couple of years. It was tough. Yep. It was really hard.
When was this?
And this was 2009 to 2011. Really hard. Small little shop. We did a great job, but it was tough. So at that point, still managing. And then the reason that I came to Edge is where I'm going with this is I got to a point where I couldn't stand managing LOs anymore. And I'm saying, because I was 8 years into my career there, and some of the LOs that I was managing, they just didn't seem to have the motivation that I did. I was always trying to get them to duplicate what I was doing to be successful. That's hard to do. You can't change people.
Force somebody to execute.
Right. So, I was getting frustrated with that because my income was related on their production.
Yes.
And I was playing with margins, which we'll get to later, I'm sure, and how that works with retail and correspondent. But I was constantly moving around the numbers and margins, trying to make more money for myself and my partner there. And at any rate, I just got kind of fed up with it. And I know Chris had already started Edge. So, him and I have been great friends forever. And, his wife, Chantel. And I hadn't met you yet, so that was cool. But I just wanted to go back to originating.
Yep.
I didn't want to manage anymore. So that's what brought me to Edge in that I reached out to Chris and I had a meeting at the office, and you popped in. That's the first time I met you. I've heard of you.
Yeah.
But never met you face to face. And I'll be honest, this funny story that everybody share. I was pretty cocky origination side. I'm like, I'm going to go back to originating because I know I can make a lot more money originating and just worry about myself.
Yep.
Not worrying about anybody. And then I reached out to Chris and he kind of told me the model he was running. And I loved it. For an originator, I said, that's where I want to be, where he can kind of leave me alone. I don't need to be managed. I just need a platform where I can excel and run my business the way I wanted. Right? Because at that point, high-level management, I didn't need management. I just needed to be left alone. And I didn't want to deal with, I could have got my broker license easy. But then I started thinking, do I want to get audited? Do I want to deal with the state exams? No, I didn't. So I just said, hey, if I'm going to pay $9.95 a file, which we'll get to Edge in a little bit on how exactly we're set up, but it was a perfect fit for me. So, but when meeting you though, I remember you walked out of Chris's office, he introduced us, and I said to him, that's your top producer? And I said, well, now I have somebody to kind of chase, because I needed that as an originator. And going back to managing LOs, some LOs really want to chase and be number one, and some LOs don't. They just want to, do what they need to do. So I knew coming with a guy like you on top of me, would you say I used to chase you?
Yeah.
Could never beat you.
I was your rabbit.
Couldn't beat you. I'll be honest, couldn't beat this guy. It's impossible to beat this guy. Sandbagged me 1 month. You remember?
Yeah, I remember.
I had him on the leaderboard going in last week, and he just popped 3 more closings. And anyway, thought it was a funny story. I never told you that, but I told Chris, well, and I'm gonna wipe the floor with him or something. I was a cocky young guy back then, but I found out quickly that wasn't gonna happen. So that's what brought me to Edge. The story is, for me as an originator, it was perfect. I mean, literally, I could just come in. The broker channel, it was transparent pricing, which for me, coming from, maybe I'm going in the weeds, but I think everybody should hear this if they're considering joining Edge. If you're at a retail or correspondent, direct lender, I was in that role with the next company, where I was controlling those margins. And I'm telling y'all right now, at the time, it was about me and my partner making profit. Yeah. I really didn't care, so much. It was always monthly, is margin. I would crank the dial. And so I knew coming to Edge that being a true broker, I mean, he laid it out for me. He's like, here's the deal. We're 275 lender paid comp, and that's it. Edge can't make more money off you. And when I saw that, and I knew, because I used to crank the dial. Yes. So when I saw that, I knew transparent pricing. He's not going to make more money off me than what he needs to make. Sure. And so that was a perfect fit for me. So
it was. I want to backtrack just a tad bit on something you said, because when I was at UWM we had an Edge success track, and we had about 180 team members out there. And one of the things that I got up and talked about that I think is key for a lot of originators is like finding your rabbit. And what I mean by that is, like you kind of said it, to where you set me as that example. What you don't realize is not only probably did it help you, but it helped me too. Yeah. Because when we get to the point to where like, oh shit, this guy's coming after me.
Right.
Like, I've had it with Major, right? I've had it with,
I know.
There's a lot of people that will say like, hey, I'm coming after you this
You got to surround yourself with like-minded top producers.
100%. Now, even for a lot of our team members, and you hit it on the head by saying this, it doesn't necessarily always mean that you pick the top guy. Find somebody that's maybe 10% better, 20% better, and you can replace rabbits. Like if you look at dog racing or horse racing, and they have that, I don't know, I call it a rabbit, but they have that thing to where they're chasing it. Yeah. To me, that's key. Now, for you and I right now, in the roles that we play with Edge, we know who our rabbit is, right? Yep. It's pretty clear. And I think that we're already a better horse just because we're, we are pound for pound better. For sure. But we're still not number one, right? And I know for both of us, that's the one thing to where like competition, there hasn't ever been a time to where you were shutting your door and saying, I'm just going to you shared a lot of stuff with me that helped me too, right? Yeah. Like you helped me with a lot of my processes from using, like, that's when I went to Perfect LO. You took our Edge Home Finance mobile app. And at that time, I think you built it to where you had it your own, but then we ended up copying and taking it from Edge. Like one of your skill sets has always been not only organization, as if anybody goes into your office, they can see that clearly, but putting systems into place that really make this process for a client the same thing every time. And when you look at most successful, like Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies, they all have the same thing in common. The client experience is the same for every one of them. Yeah. If I go to McDonald's in Shanghai, Banghai, that was the wrong one. Shanghai. I was thinking Bangkok, and I took Shanghai.
Jake can edit. Good thing we're not live.
You're going to have the same experience, right? You go to Amazon anywhere around the world, it's the same experience. So that was one of the things where, for me, I was really good at, I would say, gaining trust of my referral partners because I did care, right? Like to me, I would tell my realtor partners, hey, I guarantee you that I will work this transaction like it was my very first deal ever. And but I lacked a lot of the things to where you helped elevate my game, and now you do it for the entire company, right? Sure. Like there's so many things that people don't realize behind the scenes that Nick has his hand in, really from every aspect, from managing our onboarding staff that's doing, the work that they're doing. Bonzo was an incredible build out, how you put that together with all of the steps. My point with that, and I'll go back to what I was saying, find your rabbit, right? If you're somebody doing 2 loans a month right now and you want to get to 4, find the person doing 4 loans a month, because that person wants to get to 6. And when you guys compete with each other, you're calling them and saying, hey, how did you get those 2 clients last month? What did you do to get those, those relationships? And look at it and actually, just the oldest saying, iron sharpens iron, right? To me, that's one of the reasons why I was super excited to not only have an office back together again, but we have hitters in this office, right? Sure. I get to see people like Josh and Andy and Sid and all of Steve, all the guys that are here trying to get better and learning from each other, which is key. It's one of the reasons why you and I would say, have always had a good relationship. One, we've always wanted to kick the shit out of each other from a business perspective.
For sure.
But we like that. That's fun. And that competitiveness, I'll pivot again here, has also flown down to even your kids, right?
Yeah.
Because I think for those that follow Nick on social media, it's basically his kids is his social media from what he's doing. His kids in competitive sports, his daughters in competitive sports. It's really, really cool to see. I'm excited to see what happens to both of them.
Thank you.
Both of them in the future here. So for a lot of us that come into the broker channel, especially now, almost everybody in the industry, as long as you and I have been, have had some experience with the broker channel, right? In your opinion, what do you think has changed if you look today compared to where if you're a loan officer that was in the broker channel prior to the collapse in 2008, what do you think the biggest change is today compared to what it was back in 2008?
I think, way back in the day when there were so many brokers out there, it was running really loose. As everybody knows, that was back there. And so a lot of the regulations that came out, were for the better. It needed to happen, some of them, right? And then when it comes down to some of the disclosures and things like that and appraisal, independence, and all those things were good for our business. But back then, I think going back to when I started, my training, it was like 2-3 days. And maybe that was a problem. There wasn't any licensing. So when I look back at that and, being fresh out of college, didn't own a home yet, had never gone through the mortgage process. And now here I am out there selling this to families and people that were much older. And so I learned fast, which was good. But I think that now, everybody knows in our industry to get licensed and go through all that, I think it's made everything, much, much better and more reputable, right? We're not going to go into that same scenario with a crash again, I don't believe. But, right now, the competitive side between broker and everybody else. So back then, it wasn't like it is now. So the big change I see is, I knew that broker was better for sure when I joined Edge, right? I knew I didn't want to go into any correspondent world or direct retail. So the fact that there's full transparency in the broker channel and the misconception, I believe, when I talked to many, many LOs, last 2 years, I was doing some of the front end recruiting and talking to LOs before they joined. And the misconception was always the same. And it's the messaging, I believe, from retail. They're doing a good job at it.
They have to.
A really good job at, scaring their LOs to try to keep them there with conceptions like you don't have control of your files, the pricing is going to move on you and it's not transparent, or don't join a small little company. There's like Edge is huge. There's other ones out there that are massive. And so right now, and then there's small mom and pop shops, but we all have one thing in common, which is taking care of the consumer and the support from the lender side. We've got 110 lenders, and UWM is one we talk about. They're number one, and the amount of support that you get from lenders when you're a broker. And the way I paint the picture is this: if they don't do a good job for you, you're not using them. You're using one of the other lenders, or whether it's contract processing. If they don't do a good job, you're using another one. So there's more choices now. It's much more competitive now, and the broker channel is winning. We're dominating. Everybody knows that. So it's just a matter of time before these big banks really, really lose out on their quality LOs, right? Because there's top producers there that just don't want to make that move maybe because maybe they've got a huge pipe or support staff. You can have all that. You can build your team at a company like Edge. So the biggest change is the stark difference in how brokers versus the banks and retail correspondent are treating the consumer in my mind. If that makes sense, an example would be like VA loans, government loans, FHA, VA. The margin that they're charging it's in my mind, it's almost criminal. Like when you're looking at some of these, charging veterans 500 basis points on a loan where we're capped at 275. So for those of you that are in the business, that's a huge difference. So you're supposed to take care of our veterans. We're a big believer in that. We've got so many veterans for Edge. We've got top producers, that are closing top 1% for VA. So those things have changed drastically in my mind. Whereas back in 2004, the margins weren't that much different. Everything was similar. So right now there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
It does. And I think, one of the things that you touched on is like, it's almost abusive. If we have our comp plan at 275, that's fine. But we are actually by law, if you disclose what a company's making, you're capped at 3%, right? You fail QM. Yeah. And in the part to where, at least for me on the advocacy side, that I'm thankful to be partnered with AIM on is really trying to make things fair across the industry. Yeah. And, if we wanted to, let's just say we were dirtbags and really wanted to charge the people that sacrificed their life to go serve our country, wanted to charge them $500, we couldn't.
Yeah, we can't.
That's where, to me, when we talk about why are brokers better for consumers, you hit it on the head. We can't even do that because that is the regulation that's there to help protect this channel of our industry. Now, the one thing that I also want to bring up is, prior to 2008, I think the majority of all brokers were refi originators. Right? Yep. There wasn't really purchase players in the broker side. There wasn't. And to me, when I look back and I've asked myself, why is that? Right? And I think for one, a lot of the things that retail originators are even saying to this day, like you don't have control of the process, you can't talk to your underwriters, your appraisals, we have our own panels, all of these things it was true. 10 years ago.
It was.
And now most good purchase originators are going to see wait a minute, why would I make half and charge 0.5% more? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And you've watched companies like UWM, EPM, even Home Point before they shut down, Windsor, a lot of them come out with the technology that's leveled the playing field.
Yes.
Right? Where before, as a purchase-driven originator, nothing means more to me than my reputation. Right? And if I can't deliver a referable experience, then you didn't do purchases, right? Yeah. Because on a refinance, it don't okay, we're not closing Thursday, we're closing Friday. The closer will be at your house at 6 p.m. Yeah. Didn't really matter, right? I mean, nobody was going to be homeless. So most originators, every company that I worked with, there was barely anybody ever doing purchase. We were almost scared of them, right? I agree. Remember, I don't even know how to do a purchase transaction. I think I spent the first 6 years of my career never doing a purchase.
Same.
It was same. What do you mean? I don't know. Loan contingency day?
Same.
And there was the majority of us. Now, with technology advancements, for us being obviously, I'll say a small company, even though we've grown, but we still have the same infrastructure. Yep. We finally have lending partners that have invested the money into technology. Yep. You look at UWM and they have 2,700 IT professionals. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Right? But what is it for? It's finally being able to level that playing field against a guaranteed rate or cross country to where they really did. They had great technology to be able to make sure that they could deliver a referable experience. Yep. And it used to be worth 500 basis points to be able to do that as a company generate. Yeah. Until brokers finally, we have some, I would say leaders in this industry stepping up, investing into the technology to create a level playing field where you can even entice someone like you or me to say that, because we both switched to being purchase originators, well, wait a minute. as a company, you're 11.3 days from submission to clear to close through Q1. Your average LO comp, I think our average, if you take all LOs that average at least one loan a month or higher for our company, when I was looking, I think we're over $330,000 in commissionable revenue for our loan officers. That's crazy.
I know.
And we're still, roughly, I don't know, 0.5% cheaper than our competition. It's been really fun, though, to see that transition of this industry for brokers only being refi shops to now, we're here to stay.
Yeah, for sure.
Not only are we here to stay, the companies before that used to look at us and talk to us like, and this is a inside, our company type deal. So I like just saying names. Like, look, companies like Mortgages Unlimited or even Luminate right now. Like, they're struggling to be able to justify the money that they're making.
There's no value add.
Right? There really isn't. Like, what are you going to do while you're taking 150 basis points off my pricing? And if you're a $50 million a year producer, we're talking some massive money.
Massive.
That's just for what? It's not really, it's not needed.
No, it's not.
They're like, to me, walking dinosaurs at this point, right? They're still around, but I keep watching. You look at their graph of growth, and you look at the broker channels, especially Edge's growth. We are right now we are the fastest growing brokerage in the country based on production per LO, right? Because one, for you and me, there is no mediocrity when it comes to our originators. If you get a complaint or I get a complaint, you and I both know how we handle that.
Zero tolerance.
It's one thing if you have a whiny customer because that's just how they are. We know enough to look into it and see, okay, hey, did you do your job? Like, what is our job? Our job is to communicate, right? I joke with even my realtor partners or clients, like, the vault isn't here. Come look. I'm not hiding it. You and me aren't like Donald Duck just swimming in the money here and we decide who gets it. Our job is communication. And communication is what helps, even when it's bad. If shit blows up, those are where, in my opinion, the true professionals, and you and I have been forced to do this a lot because we're dealing with other issues where we do have to fire a loan officer and then try to clean up the mess. And all it is communication.
That's all it ever boils down to.
Swallow the frog, right?
We always say that.
I like that.
That's an old school book. Eat the frog.
I know how both you and I operate. If I have something that's on my mind that's negative, I don't sleep well. I don't feel well. And it's like, it consumes me, right? To where, like, hey, first thing in the morning, I always tackle my hardest task, right?
Every time.
Like, okay, I have this client that they might not approve. Gave a pre-approval letter. How do you explain that? Simply, like, be honest and transparent.
Sure.
I have an opportunity to help gain you home ownership, which is going to create generational wealth for your family, but your situation's really tricky. And I'm willing to give it a shot, but I need you to understand. Just because I'm given a pre-qualification letter doesn't mean this is 100% solid. Now, for you as an originator, you never did that because you would always. I was
meticulous.
You're dialed in on stuff. To me, though, for a lot of us, especially those working with, I would say, subpar credit clients. You know, we have lenders that go down a 500 credit score. There is no lock on a 540 credit score. You're going to get it done. But how do you manage that situation is with effective communication and being transparent. Because don't go and sell rainbows and butterflies. Be honest, and if you're honest with people and transparent, that builds the rapport that you need to continue creating a referable experience. So
agree on all that.
So let's talk about, right now you and I are both roughly the same age. I'm 42 for a little bit. You're right around there. I think you might be 43 or
47.
47.
Climbing close fast. I tell my wife I'm 40. I tell my wife I'm turning 44 this year.
Getting old.
It's a joke in the house, man. I can't believe how.
But you and I have a good 15, 20 years left in this industry, right? What do you see happening? Like, as far as two things, really, like, what do you see happening with Edge, and what do you see with the industry in general going forward?
Great question. I mean, I'm 100% confident, especially with our leadership, right? Not just saying that because we're here, but when it comes to, you know, Chris and Chantel, myself and you, I mean, we've got a good thing going because we all collaborate, right? And we're always staying on top of changes in the industry, and we're focused on growth, doing it the right way.
Yep.
So I believe the only way we got here was by great leadership, right? And we're going to continue to do that. Things like, you know, come up like AI, how's that going to change the industry? What I would say to that is, yeah, that's a very good possibility. It's going to eliminate a lot of our competition, but you said something earlier that I want to circle back on. It's relationships.
Yep.
It's all about building those realtor relationships. This is a relationship business. AI can't do that. Will it take up some of the refi business with automation? Rocket tried to do that.
Yeah.
Push 15 years ago. And they took a lot of market share, but then companies always adapt. And so the thing I love about Edge is we're always adapting. You know, we've got the right people in place where we all have a certain skill set, right? And we talk about this sometimes about, you know, you've got Chantel who's in the shadows. She should get a lot more credit. She's back there changing up to daily payroll to make us more competitive, get our LOs paid faster. Chris with his vision and knowledge and everything, right? You and your skill set on helping our LOs grow and everything else you bring to the table, me on operations. We're going to continue to adapt and grow the right way. So I'm confident Edge eventually will be number one. That's our goal. We're not going to stop till we get there.
Yep.
And we're doing it the right way. So overall, the industry, I think, as always, there's going to be ups and downs, changes that come, and we're just going to always adapt. But I think that we're going to have to see a big rate drop pretty soon here, and the market goes up and downs. But when that happens, why I'm so proud of Edge is even before when rates were low, I remember a couple years ago, rates were in the high 2s, low 3s, and I remember me and you, the message to Edge and people we were hiring was, hey, refis are great, but that's where we hire the right people. And it was always about, we want, you know, at least 50% purchase balance when we're bringing people on. And we kept saying, hey, focus on your real relationships. You have to be doing that. And it takes time. So I think going back even further, the reason that we all started it as a refi shop is it was faster, it was easier. Now, building those relationships with realtors takes time. You got to like water the flower, plant 100%. The seed, whatever you will. But it's not easy to go out and get turned down or make 50 calls a week to realtors who hang up on you. But like at Edge, you know, for the people that need that help, we got leaders like you, like I could name 50 other top producers at Edge that are willing to help and share their ideas. So while we don't ram it down anybody's throat, if you will, like we don't force our LOs to join our weekly webinar trainings live, peer-to-peer. We do so many things for the LOs that want that guidance and help. But at the same time, we don't make anybody do something they don't want. So I went all over there, but where do I see us in the industry? I hope that we continue to grow. Even if volume goes down for market conditions, we're growing the right way. And I think when we compare ourselves to everybody else out there, there's some really good companies out there. Of course there is. And we respect everybody, right? Yep. Our thing is we never bash our competition, but we are competing. Definitely. So I think the industry, I can't go 20 years from now at the end of my career, but in the next 5 to 10 years, I think there's going to be some major changes. But again, we're going to adapt. I'm confident of that. So
I like it. That's exactly what it takes, right? We're not going to be caught off guard. No. We're not going to be sitting in a position that all of a sudden, no matter what happens, there will still be that need. It was the first time I've heard it said that way. Like, AI is not going to replace relationships. No. You know, I mean, it's just like you could buy a wife that's AI and tell me how that works, right? It doesn't. There may be some weirdos out there that may like it, but that's not. I mean, Jake's over there smiling. Take it easy, Jake.
But you can't be scared to change, right? To go on to what you're saying. I mean, look, right? We always talk. I mean, all of us, our leadership here and our top producers, we loop them as well. But we are, you know, finger on the pulse, if you will. Hey, 100%. We're going to adapt or die.
Yes.
And we will adapt. So.
I agree.
Yeah, it's
part of what you also touched on that I state to every one of our LOs is we have so many resources, but you are required to be resourceful, right? Like even the like if you go into the knowledge coop, which Nick is the one who really has not only developed that over the last 10 years, but continued to make it to me. We don't ever claim to have anything proprietary. I think a lot of companies out there I'm going to create our own LOS system. So that way I can sell it and have, we've never been fake with any of that. No. It's like, even Knowledge Coop, I don't think the guys from Knowledge Coop even understand what you've done with it, right? It's crazy.
I mean, really, one of our LOs that I think it was Tom Stafford.
Yeah.
Really, one of our top producers here, he brought it up to me in the sidebars. It's not all me that's coming up with some of these ideas. I mean, we have our LOs bringing ideas to me, and then I'll vet them and look at them, and I have a lot on my own that I bring. But I'm always looking, part of my job, and one of the things that I bring to the table, I believe, one of my strengths is I'm always looking for a way to make things more efficient.
Yes.
Like I can see that when it comes to like the Knowledge Coop, I mean, that's their back end technology that they allow you to customize. And it was brought to me mainly because of, hey, they have great education, our CE classes.
Yes.
It was all, a better way because all of us, I'm not going to say a name of anybody in there, but there's some providers where you sit there every year, we do the CE, and you just feel like you're banging your head against a wall watching the CE. So it was brought to me initially as, hey, this is a better CE and we can get a discount. And sidebar, where Edge is so big now, we're always using our size to leverage discounts. But so that's how that started. We wanted a discount. And once I got into the back end of it and options, I did run wild with it, and it's a blessing. Could we have built out our own intranet? Of course.
Yeah.
But we don't have an IT department. That would take
Correct.
more money. So at any rate, that's kind of how that started, is I found a way, and I just saw benefit in that. And another reason that I really focused on that for a while is that at the time we were all talking about how can we start rapidly growing, because at the time Edge was successful and our model was amazing. So at that point we all decided this is amazing and we can really take market share, but it was how do we scale up? And part of the reason I'm so proud of Edge is, we've scaled the right way. Right? Now we're rapidly growing faster than we ever have. You mentioned fastest growing broker. We are. But my job and part of that is, hey, do we need more support staff here?
Yes.
Payroll, Chantel.
Yep.
She's got a whole team, and she's constantly looking for efficiencies so that we could roll that daily payroll.
Yes.
That was a major undertaking. We wanted to do it for a while. And again, I'm going in the weeds, but just there's so much planning and all the pieces to the puzzle that fit together. And that's kind of our scale. We're scaling the right way. We're not going to grow too fast because that's top of mind for us, because if we're missing payroll, that's not going to work. Our LOs are going to jump ship, and that's something we take serious. Our LOs are everything to us. So for those of you out there, if you're not part of Edge, if you want to come to a place where you're treated with respect and everything that we do management-wise, right? Anything we're going to do and make a change to anything is, how is this going to affect our LOs? We need to make it more efficient for them. And so when we make a change to anything, we think of the LO out there. We 100%. Always do.
Because that was us. I mean, say it all the time. This was a company built by originators for originators, right? Yeah. Because it really is the case. We've had occasionally, as you grow, you'll have a couple of things that, super small, like, one-offs. Mm-hmm. We fix it immediately. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's been an amazing journey that we're on. I'm looking forward to, since you got 5 years on me, I'll say I look forward to 15 years when we see what's going to happen, not only with Edge, but this industry. But the one thing that I know for sure is we're going to be players in it. Yeah. Right? We're here to stay. Yep. We're a company that has been around now over a decade. Yeah. Continued to grow, not one mark on our license from an issue with anything, because we do the right thing. Right. And I think when you talked about like even the strengths between, the partnership that the four of us have, we all have vastly different skill sets, but it balances out perfectly, right? Like for me, I'll talk about it all the time with Chris, like, hey, I want to do this. Like, let's do it. Yeah. Like, well, wait a minute. Maybe that's not like, you see all these people hiring real estate agents right now. Yeah. Right? It's like nonstop. Oh, can I make them my LOA and then pay them? They refer the deal and I pay them. I'm like, do me a favor. Like, look at RESPA and see, what does it say? Yeah.
Is it a referral fee?
Yeah, that's so all they're doing is paying them. And it's like,
it is.
To me, when I see competition doing things, I want to try to do it. Yeah. And then I realize Chris will bring me back in, or you will, or Chantel, like, hey, you realize if we're wrong, it's a year in prison.
Yeah.
Like
for us.
That's what I mean.
For us,
it's not even
the risk
like,
is on our company.
Why wreck something that's good? So we're always looking out for our loan officers, but we also have to look out for the house, because one poor decision by a company can put you into a spot to where everyone's affected. And when you realize, like, I don't know, like you said you went to Apple Valley. How many people graduated with your class roughly?
Well, I lived in Apple Valley, went to Rosemount, just to be clear.
How many people went to Rosemount then?
2,000.
Okay. That's where we're going to be, in roughly a year or so, based on where our trajectory is. To think that that's how many families that we provide for, to me, it's an honor.
On a monthly basis.
That's what, and I know for a fact, I know for a fact where you stand as well too, right? It's there's never anybody has to question like what your drive and motivation is. It's one, I want to do better than I did yesterday. Two, how can we support our LOs by making our processes and efficiencies top notch, even from the recruiting aspect. We've made it to where
efficient.
That bond and the way that it goes, I don't even need you to be a great recruiter. All I need you to do is tell me somebody that is slightly interested, and then bam, we built the system out to be able to continue to share what it is about Edge. It's great. They get a chance to sit, and I love doing those presentations. And I think when you like doing something, that's to where, to me, it's not, I don't know. I don't ever dread waking up and coming to work.
Me either. I
get excited.
We're the first ones here.
That's what it is.
He beats me almost every day. But today I beat him for this day.
It's been kind of nice lately, though. We're slowing back on origination.
We're grinding. That's
always.
Leadership here is grinding just as hard, right?
And that's what it takes, right? That's what it takes to be number one. It doesn't just happen by. There's people that are cheaper. There's people that are maybe going to pay you more with a hiring bonus and stuff. But pound for pound in our value proposition and the way that this leadership team runs, it literally, in my opinion, is second to none. With that, thank you. I just wanted to say thanks. I know
thank you, man.
You're not a huge get on the camera and talk kind of guy.
You had to twist my arm to get me in here.
Well, I wanted to. I think our team members need to see what is the culture of Edge trickles down from the top, right? And our culture is kind of a no bullshit culture. We really want to help you. We want to give you everything in the world to make you succeed. But I need you to meet me halfway there. Right? I need you to actually have the resourcefulness to go in and dive into the knowledge coop. Look at our training. Show up to our meetings. Look at the one that I'm rolling out for our realtor, Bring Your Realtor event. I'm trying to change things up consistently to help our team grow. But it's up to you guys, right? If you want to do better, if you want to be from 3 units to 5 units, I'll set your rabbit for you. Let me know. I'll find somebody that I know that's doing great things. Watch Thomas Holloway's, we're doing these weekly, but I had a great one with Thomas Holloway yesterday. Freaking amazing, right?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, man.
I uploaded it yesterday.
It's fire.
I'm going to watch it.
Fire.
Because,
I mean, the guy's just, West Point military graduate, so highly educated, obviously has some crazy mental toughness too.
Oh, yeah.
But he touched base on a lot of things that, to me, that every loan officer could benefit from. And I joked about it in my post that I put out there. If I could mandate it, I would. But we can't, right? Oh, everyone end up in, that's another thing. When we look at, key. How come we don't mandate things? Well, simple. We don't want a class action lawsuit for,
exactly.
Makes it simple.
Well, to piggyback on that, I mean, think about it, right? We don't make anybody do anything here.
No.
We offer many, many different things, but, you guys got to want it. You got to come and suck the knowledge, because, again, just having you and all the things you're doing individually, boot camps, and, I mean, your schedule, I looked at his calendar one day, and it's just booked. I mean, it's booked, and this guy's working 12 hours, 13 hours a day. So, but then all the other leaders, I mean, look at all the things you're doing, people sharing ideas, collaborating. We love that. That's the best culture.
So we're going to wrap it up, right? I think, once again, thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for all the effort that you put in, right? There's nobody that's ever, the cool part, to circle back to it, nobody's ever micromanaging you or me. Chris and Chantel, really, they're the heads, right? They're the ones that direct you and I. But it's always in a way to where, we get to share, we come together on Mondays and hey, what's going on? What are we doing? Here's what we're working on. We all run in our own lane, and we run well together. We do a really, really good job.
It's that trust, everybody's skill set.
Definitely is. So
I love it.
Look forward to seeing everyone here next week. We will be rolling out. If you talk to Chris Hacker, tell that guy to get in this seat, by the way.
I'm going to message him. Hey, he's got to follow up, and then we got to get Chantel in here, too.
Well, Chantel might be a tough sell.
We're going to try, though.
Some, and I'll call her a brainiac. Some brainiacs don't like to be on camera, right?
She's amazing.
She really is. But that's all I have for today. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week on Around the Edge. If you need any help, if there's any resources that you need access to, you're looking for some tips, coaching, understanding how to use technology, we are available. We work for you, and we appreciate you. Hope everyone has a great day.